Good morning, I'm Grant Flora, and it's time for the Coach's Corner Basketball Show on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. With me this morning is student Zach Bowen and boys head basketball coach John Everingham. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning, guys.
All right, well, to start things off this morning, we're going to recap the Angola matchup that was last Saturday. We left off last week on the Coach's Show, kind of previewing that matchup, and then you guys were able to win that game with a final score 56-44, and now we're going to break that down. So, Coach, my first question is, overall, the game against Angola was very similar to your season opener against Fairfield, except you're able to take control in the second half rather than your opponent taking control in the second half. So what was the difference?
Well, we came out. I think we were down 2 at halftime, and felt pretty comfortable with where we were at. But I did need a good third quarter out of my team, and I remember turning to Coach O'Connell and just saying we have to win this quarter. And so I felt like if we could take control of the game in that third quarter, that we'd be able to do some things in the fourth quarter that would put them in a bad situation. And that's exactly what happened. I think. One of the telling stats in the second half there is we had 0 turnovers in the second half. So coming off, only 4 turnovers against Fairfield and then having 0 turnovers against Angola in the second half, that was big for us because I think there was 3.5 minutes to go in the game, and we had taken 2 ill-advised shots from 2 of our guys, and when I really wanted to kind of control things, and when we were given the opportunity to control things in that fourth quarter, we took the clock from about 3.5 minutes to about 2.5 minutes, and then they started fouling. They put in some of their JV guys and started fouling us, and then we beat them from the free throw line. So the second half really kind of played out like I had hoped, and we came out on top, like you said.
Coach, my question is, what things did you learn from that game overall?
Well, I think I learned that we were able to overcome some adversity. We really wanted to win that game at Fairfield on our opening night here on our home floor, and to be honest with you, I think what we learned was that we have some things to work on, and that's okay. And so sometimes you really don't know for sure what you have, and then when you put something out there on the floor, for me as a coach, you start to pinpoint the types of things that you can work on, and so I think if we would have put our tail between our legs and come back on Friday, remember that was after Thanksgiving, if we would have come back on Friday kind of being in the dumps and not ready to practice, it was going to be a real challenge for me to get the guys up for the game. But actually what happened was just the opposite. We came in and I think it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, and it looked like our guys were pretty upbeat and ready to get better. And so like I said, it was my job after that first game to really kind of pinpoint some of the things that we needed to work on, and I felt like we got better at those against the Angola Hornets.
All right, well, Coach, your backcourt continues to impress, but we saw some contrast between your first 2 games. In the first game, Miles Everingham led the team in the scoring column, but Maddox took that role against the Hornets. Also, Colin Zebarth contributed at a high level in both outings. So what does having a balanced and multi-weaponized backcourt mean for your team?
Yeah, that certainly creates problems, for other teams because they gotta make a decision on, who they're going to put their best defender on, and if you put it on one guy, we think we got another guard that can hurt you. And so the other thing too is getting the ball to the basket and drawing some help side. We feel like if we can create some space, those guys are playmakers and they can definitely score. Proven. Over the first, 2 or 3 games here, they can score a little bit. And so, the challenge for those 3 guys will be they'll be able to score pretty much all season long if we can keep them healthy. The challenge is going to be for those guys is creating opportunities for other people too. And so getting the ball into the paint, kicking it out to an open shooter or an open guy that can now break somebody down when they're trying to close out and kind of get them what we're calling kind of the washing machine, where you don't know where we're hitting you from. And so the good news for us is that we got 3 guys that can score, and it creates matchup problems for the other team. And as soon as we get some other guys coming along, Carson Smith is a kid that we really think that as his experience develops, where he'll be able to score some points too. He's a scorer, and he hasn't been able to put some points on the board early this season, but once he starts feeling more comfortable, it's not just going to be 3 guys. I think it can be 4, 5, or 6 guys that can score. And so, we're working on practice and on breaking teams down and kicking the ball out, redriving, and really putting other teams in vulnerable spots where we can score a little easier.
Coach, I'd like to talk about that a little bit more. With the 3-point, that's been your shot all year long, it seems like. But in the Angola game, we've seen you kind of transfer over into the inside more. You were passing on the inside and getting layups more. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, it's like kind of like I just said. We really need to develop, as an offensive team where we're getting more people involved, and we have several guys that can not just shoot the three, but can also they have a little bit of a post game too, and so you'll start to see us develop as multiple guys catch the ball in the post, and not just Colin Robertson, but Carson Smith and our three guards that we think can also score on the inside, and also getting to the free throw line. I think that's also a big key because we got good shooters. So if we can get to the line, those are free throws. So we got a long way to go, on the offensive end, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit on the defensive end too. But offensively, I think we put up 64 points in our first game, and then 56, and then I think 56 again last night. So we're proving that we can score. There's things that we thought we knew going into the season, and one thing was that we thought we could put some points on the board. So now it's just kind of blending that all together and pinpointing some things we can improve upon, and just trying to get better, each week we practice.
Well, Coach, like you said, you've been pretty effective on the offensive end so far. Defensively against Angola, you held them to 44 points compared to 74 in your season opener. So how will this defensive performance help you throughout the season, and where do you still have room to grow?
Well, like I said, I figured we'd probably talk a little defense too, but we really struggled against Fairfield, and like I said, after that game, they had a nice inside-out kind of mix, where they could throw it inside. If we dig down too far, they're kicking it out to shooters, and so we're trying to shore up some of our post defense, whether we're playing behind, side front, or full front. When you full front, you're susceptible to offensive rebounds, so you kind of got to gauge. If you're playing behind, you can get more defensive rebounds. If you're side front, you're giving up a little more. In full front, you're just kind of hoping for some longer rebounds. So we're really trying to shore up some of our interior defense first, and then kind of moving out to where we close out properly, close out square, and not give up dribble penetration. So, one of the things that's been problematic early in the season is being able to keep guys in front, not allowing them to get to the basket. Just like what I was talking about, for us to be able to break people down and make defenses vulnerable, other teams have been doing that to us. And so it's on us to figure out different ways to combat that. One of the ways that we've been looking at, and we did a little bit last night, is to play some zone defense where it gives guys a little bit of extra help in terms of help side or guarding the gaps. And so we're improving. Last week, leading up to last night's game, it was something that we focused on, and I thought we got better. And so against Angola certainly was better than Fairfield. And so from a coach's perspective, you take a look at some things you can get better at. You can't take all of them in like one big ball and say we're going to practice, try to get better at everything. You really try to break it down. Like, what's one thing that we can get better at this week? And going into that Angola game, I felt like we did a better job of containing penetration. Dane Lance, a kid that scored 20 plus. We probably had 25 against us last year, and probably an all-conference guy in the NECC. We held him to 4 points, and so I thought Maddox Everingham did a nice job on him. Really doing a good job of closing out on him and limiting his shots from the exterior. If you guys recall, Lance had on a turnover that we had in the first half, he broke through and got a steal and got a wide open, uncontested 1-on-0 layup. And then we had a little bit of a breakdown guarding their out-of-bounds play underneath, and he back cut us for another bucket. That was his 2 buckets that he had for the night. And so, individually, we had some better individual defensive performances. And as a team, I thought we got better from game 1 to game 2. Hence, holding a team to 44 points is probably where we need to be. Our goal is to hold these teams under 50 points. And obviously, at Angola, we did that.
Coach, Before that game, you were talking about containing King a little bit. You were kind of expecting him to come out and play. So how did you contain him the way you did?
Well, I think he had 12 points in the first half, and so we decided to play behind, and try to take care of their shooters and allow Peyton Felger and Colin Robertson, to guard him behind and try to see what sort of skill that he had to score the basketball. And we gave up a couple offensive rebounds. He did have 12 points in the first half, but the thing is we were controlling their guards from the outside. I think for the game, Angola shot 0 for 9 from the three-point range, and I don't think they scored any points from outside the paint. And so we did a pretty good job on the perimeter against them, and we kind of put the game in King's hands. Can King score 20, 25, or whatever against our big guys? And he wasn't able to do that in the second half. I thought he got a little tired. A good kid. I know him, and he's coming off a shoulder injury from the previous season where he hasn't played in probably a year and a half. And so he had a good opening game against us, 12 points in the first half, but we really controlled him in the second half. I thought he got a little tired, and they just weren't really able to – he wasn't able to carry his team to a victory, and that was kind of our game plan to see if he could do that.
All right, well, Coach, this is something we might get into later on in the show as well, but you look at your lineup, you have the Everinghams and Z-Barth that are kind of your true guards. You have Robertson down low as your 5-man usually. And then that 4 spot is Peyton Felger in your starting lineup. Carson Smith can come in and fill that. But they don't necessarily put up the points for your team, but they do a lot for your team. Where have they helped you to have success?
Well, it's pretty cool for me, to watch Peyton Felger play, because a lot of people don't realize the value that he brings to the team. And so it's just how it works. Look, you got a guy that scores 20 points, and he probably gets all the headlines in the newspaper. But, Peyton is a guy that's he made a play at the Fairfield game where he sprinted the length of the floor and blocked the shot from behind. He just makes all the hustle plays. He's really good at taking charges underneath. And then he's versatile because he can guard, a perimeter player. He can also guard a post player, and he's just really a tough kid. And so he brings a lot of value to the team that a lot of people just watching a basketball game, they don't quite see, So, again, I know some of these other guys that are scoring points, they get a lot of the headlines and they get talked about a lot, but you just can't talk enough about, Colin or Peyton Felger and the job that he's doing in all facets of the game. He doesn't turn the ball over. He can knock down shots too, and he's proven that last year where we need him to score just a little bit more to take some pressure off some other guys, but it's a new role for him, and so you got guys in new roles, guys with inexperience. As they gain experience in their new roles or they gain experience at the varsity level, what you'll see is some of those point totals for our 3 guards start to decline. Not that they're playing worse, it just means other guys are picking up the slack just a little bit, and so we're just going to have to be patient with that development of our team, and we feel good about our top 6 guys, and with Carson Smith coming off the bench and being a nice 6th man. He brings some energy. He passes the ball well, and eventually he'll start scoring some points.
All right, well, that's the Angola game. Again, final score 56-44, your first win of the season on the road. Coming up, we're going to discuss the Manchester game that just happened last night. A really close game, really good game. But we'll have more Coach's Corner basketball show coming up on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner basketball show on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. I'm Grant Flora here with Zach Bowen and head basketball coach John Everingham. And now we've moved on to the Manchester matchup that was last night on a Friday night. And that was a barn burner. It was back and forth all game. You got out to a bit of a slow start, but were able to bring it back by halftime. And then that second half was neck and neck, where eventually it just came down to the last possession, and Manchester's Gavin Betton was able to get to his left side for a left-hand layup that was able to seal the game. So, Coach, my first question, to begin the game, Manchester threw some pressure at you that caused some issues and allowed Manchester to get out to an early lead. What was the key to settling down and breaking it?
Well, I think we had a chance. I think Coach Henson called a timeout, later in the first quarter. And my message to our guys was it's okay. We're doing the things that we need to do. We just missed some shots early on, and as a matter of fact, that kind of carried on throughout the game. But shots that I felt like, we normally knock down, we didn't, early in the game. And so, which led to their transition, fast break, points. And so I bet they scored 6 or 8 points in that first quarter off of some of our long rebounds that they went and converted at the other end. So if you take, that's a 5-point swing sometimes when you shoot a 3-pointer and they go down and shoot a layup at the other end, where if you make that 3-pointer, they have to take the ball out of bounds. And so I just felt like, we didn't knock down the shots in the first quarter, and that's something that happens, throughout a game. It's not like our guys are trying to miss on purpose. And so we were down 20-7, maybe even 22-8 or something like that. I think we're down 14 at one point in time, but there was something inside me that wasn't really worried. We fell behind Fairfield by 14 points in the third or fourth quarter. I was worried then, because there wasn't enough time maybe to make up that sort of deficit late in the game. But early in the game, they got off to a great start. They knocked down some 3-point shots, and we missed a few, and so. But I was really proud of our guys, the way they responded to that. It didn't look like we were flustered or getting frustrated. So we displayed a little bit of mental toughness there in the first quarter that I think is going to go a long way in our season. There's going to be ebbs and flows and ups and downs, throughout the season and throughout a game. And so I was really happy with the way our guys responded, being down that much early in the game that there are times where I've coached teams that they kind of throw your hands like, well, this isn't our night, so we'll just go through the motions for the rest of the game, and it turns into a 20-point loss. And so I think it's a really good sign for us that we didn't do that. We stayed poised and obviously made a run at them, and we're right in the game.
Coach, in that first quarter, it seemed like Manchester put a lot of pressure on you and making their shots, but then in that second quarter, it's like everything flipped. Yeah. You were putting pressure on them, and then you started making shots. So what can you say about that flip? What caused that?
Well, it starts with, making shots. I mean, Z-Barth hit a 3 there that cut it. I think Maddox hit a 3, and we got an offensive rebound put back, I believe. I think we went on a 10-0 run. That's pretty indicative, I think, of our team. We have the ability to put some points on the board quickly, and so that's exactly what we did. And the one that sticks out in my mind is that Z-Bar 3, where we moved the ball real well. We got the ball inside and kicked it out to him for a wide-open 3. He's shooting the ball at a rate that is really good, like 65% from the field, and I think maybe close to 50% from 3. And so we got to find him more opportunities because he's putting the ball through the hoop at a high rate. But again, I've talked about it in the first segment. It's up to our other guys to create those opportunities for other players, and that's something that we're going to continue to work on.
All right, well, Coach, you were able to hold Gavin Benton to 14 points.
Yeah.
He was averaging 22 in his first 2 games, and we talked in the pregame about what you could do to contain him. And basically what you said was, we don't know if we can. We're going to try and stop the other 4 players, but you were able to hold him to 14 points. So what allowed you to do that?
Well, that's Colin Robertson. He really, you could tell yesterday I said the same thing to him, that we just can't stop him. And I could tell there's a little sparkle in his eye. I said, watch this, and so even before the game, I was a little worried that he was a little too excited about guarding him. And I was worried about him getting in foul trouble. But, Colin's a guy that is still getting into shape. He still probably could, and I'd say it to him, but he's probably somebody that'll drop 5 or 10 pounds here throughout the season. But he's only played about 18 to 22 minutes, the first couple games, just because we're kind of working him back into shape. And he played 28 minutes last night. And so when he went out of the game, we were put in a bad spot, because he's just physical enough to push Gavin away from the basket and then make it tough on him to shoot the ball because he's so long. And so the other factor was our other senior, Peyton Felger. He was guarding, one of their off guys, and he was really digging down well. So we only allocated one guy to kind of dig down. And when Gavin put the ball on the floor, we were going to rush at him and try to knock that ball away. And actually we did several times. And even a couple other times I thought there were some touch fouls that were called when the ball squirted away from him. So we did a good job of playing him straight up, and then when he put the ball on the floor, we were able to tip it away, from him. And I thought he got a little frustrated kind of throughout the game where he started to venture out into the three-point line and his shot wasn't going. He shot an air ball. So that's not indicative of the type of player that he is, but I think that's because of the defensive pressure that we put on him. And to be honest with you, we didn't do quite as good a job, on some of the other guys. They're a little more athletic maybe than we thought, and they got the ball to the basket. So it did kind of flip what we thought, taking care of the other four guys and letting Gavin get his points. It kind of flipped to where we started to kind of focus on some of their guards and just let Colin do his thing on Benton down there. So overall, it was a very good performance from Colin, his best game of the year so far.
Coach, I'd like to mention some of that with Colin. That whole game he was locking him down, but then when he wasn't, and you're kind of mentioning, you had other players who would step up to the plate. And Carson Smith, I remember, I think he either got a block or got a big steal from Benton down low. So what can you say about that, players transitioning where Colin wasn't in and them trying to stop him?
Yeah, I remember that play. He got he got excited. I think he blocked his shot, and then Benton reached for the ball and tipped it out of bounds, and it ended up being our ball. And so, Peyton's fully capable of guarding somebody in the post and being physical with them, and we're working with Carson also to guard, a 4 or a 5. And he's a versatile defender as well, where he can guard a guard all the way to a big man. So it's kind of a team defense, concept. And you did see us play a little bit of box and one, just a little zone last night too, that I thought as we were struggling to contain penetration, we moved away from our man-to-man to try to keep those guys on the perimeter. And so I thought there were aspects of that box and one that were pretty effective, in the throughout that game. I think the whole second quarter, when we won 18-9, I believe, we played a box and one that entire second quarter. So that's something we worked on this week, and I think that will be something we can use, moving forward in our season.
Well, Coach, a lot of people talk about how close games can really teach you the most about your team. So with that, how will last night's game prepare you for the rest of the season, but also tonight?
Yeah, we have a game tonight?
We do.
We do?
It'll be a good one.
Can't confirm.
Oh, geez. Okay, you can confirm. Okay, well, we're going to talk about that in the third segment there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go West Noble then. But, no, I mean, look, I thought it was a good game. I mean, I wish both teams, honestly, I think if we could have, if both teams could have had a little less turnovers, I think both teams had 14 or 15 turnovers. It would have been a really good high school basketball game and a good clean one. Now, it got a little sloppy at times. There were a lot of fouls called, but you got two teams out there competing really hard, and I thought that's the scrappiest that we played, this year. And even in practice, you could kind of sense that we're picking up some of the concepts of how hard you have to play on the defensive end. And to my surprise, maybe a little bit, Manchester matched that. And so they've struggled a little bit on the defensive end as well, and they played pretty scrappy. We obviously struggled with their pressure and some of their pressing, but both teams kind of went back and forth. I don't know how many lead changes there were. I think it's on the stat sheet, but maybe do you know what it was, Zach? But there were several lead changes. We were tied at several points, and again, that's after us being down 14 points. How many was it?
It was 11 lead changes last night.
11 lead changes. So if you're going to a ball game and you pay $5 to get in, and you get a popcorn and a pop, and you're sitting there and you want to be entertained, last night those people, whether they're watching on YouTube or when they came to the game, that was a very entertaining game. There's a lot of strategy involved. It was a really tight game, and I remember at one point I put my arm around the official and I said, "Are you having fun out here?" And he goes, "Oh, I love this." And so whether you were an official, a coach, a scorekeeper, you're doing the radio broadcast, or you're just a fan kind of watching, I felt like it was a really entertaining game, and it came down to the last possession. They hit a shot, obviously, we'll probably talk about. They hit a shot with 2.5 seconds, but we got the ball. We executed our end of the game stuff, got the ball to half court, was able to call a timeout, and then we got a shot in the air. It wasn't a great shot, but those are things, again, those are experiences that are going to pay off in the long run. We'd like to win that game, but there's certainly some positives that we're going to take away from that game.
Coach, here's one positive I'd like to mention to you. In that first half, you did go down by a 2-point deficit at halftime. And in that second half, you came out. I don't know if you know this, but you tied them 29-29 in that second half. Obviously, you didn't get the win there, but you did tie them. So what can you say about that?
Well, I thought we again, I mentioned the Angola game because we were down 2 at Angola, and I think they went on a 9-2 run to end the third quarter. And so the last minute and a half of the third quarter really didn't go our way. As a matter of fact, I think we were up 4, and they made a little run there, and the ball squirted loose. They hit a 3 right at the end of the third quarter. That was a big stretch there where I really wanted to win that third quarter, and I think we ended up tying them, where I felt like it kind of at Angola, if we could have had a little bit of a lead going in that fourth quarter, we would have tried to control things and put them in a bad spot. And I've coached against Coach Henson, multiple years when he was at Whitco and Manchester, and it just seems like our games come down to the final play, the final shot. We were over there my second year here, and Jacob Hand hits a last-second shot. We've had games here that come down right to the end, or overtime games, and it wasn't a big surprise that the game last night came down to, the last few possessions.
Well, Coach, one thing that I thought maybe I saw was that last play with Benton in his basket. I thought you seemed a little upset about something, maybe with the officials. Was there anything you saw there that you thought could have been called?
No, not at all. No, I had told the official, if the ball goes through the hoop, I will immediately call timeout. And so he shook his head and he understood. So officials, for the most part, they've been around and they kind of know, what coaches are going to do. And so when I told him, we're going to call timeout as soon as the ball goes through the hoop, if it goes through the hoop, and I did. I was out on the floor, calling timeout, trying to get us as much time as possible to get a bucket at the other end. And I think he forgot, and so much like, players and coaches alike, when you're in the heat of the moment, it's really difficult to explain how intense that environment is. And so, sometimes players make mistakes and sometimes coaches make mistakes, and I've made plenty of those. And sometimes, officials make mistakes too. They're human. And so I was glad to see that they discussed things, amongst themselves and felt like it was fair to put time back on the clock. It went from 0.9 to 2.5 seconds. And that's a big deal when you're talking about going the full length of the floor with one timeout. We were able to throw it over the top on a beautiful pass from Colin Zebarth, I think, to Maddox, and get the ball at half court to give us a chance. In the NBA, you call a timeout, you automatically get it at the half court line. But in high school, you got to use your timeout. You got to get to half court or decide to go full length of the floor. We didn't have enough time to go full length of the court, so it was in our best interest to get it to half court, call timeout, and have a chance with our last second side out of bounds play.
All right, well, that'll conclude our recap of the Manchester game. Coming up, we're going to preview the West Noble matchup tonight, which is sure to be a doozy. So more Coach's Corner basketball show coming up on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner basketball show on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. I'm Grant Flora with Zach Bowen, and we also have Coach John Everingham here with us. And it's time to preview tonight's matchup between Wawasee and West Noble. And I'm really expecting a good game, Coach.
I'll bet you are. Well, you're sitting across from me with the West Noble shirt on. You're a West Noble student. So if you're a listener of the program, this is a big moment for us, right? Because, I guess we could actually play a West Noble twice, So, come sectional time, maybe we'll get to revisit this little interesting setup here in the radio broadcast booth here. But, I'm sure about as much as I do about the West Noble Chargers. But what I can tell you is that they're good. I mean, they're really good. And so it's going to be quite a task for us tonight. We were talking off air that they really didn't lose anybody from last year. You never know what those players meant to that team, off the floor and maybe in the locker room and things like that. But on the floor, they got everybody back. And so we don't have everybody back. We're not the same team, and we're still developing and learning and things like that. And then, on top of that, we lost. Man, we were down like 40 points, Grant, last year. Do you remember that game?
I do. Yeah, I was calling that game for West Noble, and they were playing well. That's for sure.
They were hitting everything, and I remember kind of a funny story. I don't know if I told this or not, but I looked over at the bench, at the scorer's bench, and not something I'm super proud of, but I kind of remarked to the timekeeper. I said, "What are you doing? You're not even stopping the clock." I was like, you're not, the whistle blows and you're not stopping the clock. He goes, "Coach, it's a new rule. It's running clock. And when you're down 35 points, it's running clock." I said, "We're down 35?" And so I looked up and we were down 40. I said, "My apologies to you, sir. I forgot about the new rule, the running clock." So they got a great team. They're well coached. They got Coach Marsh over there, Coach Goshert, who is a very well-known coach here at Wawasee over there on the sidelines. And so they have things rolling right now, and they should feel really good about where their team's at. And we're going to have troubles tonight, real troubles. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I personally am excited to watch two high-level programs go at it tonight. It's going to be a great game. But, Coach, West Noble has begun the season with two impressive wins. Austin Kripe is averaging 19 points a game, 7.5 assists, and 7.5 rebounds. And Braden Barth is averaging 18 as well, with 6.5 rebounds to go along with it. So what can you do to deal with Kripe, who we've talked about a lot even already, and Barth as well?
Well, I guess I got one more year dealing with Kripe. He's been a really good player for them, over the last 3 or 4 years. On his behalf, and I've talked to his dad a little bit and some of the people over there at West Noble. I love his game. I mean, I love his game. He's a guy that if he wanted to, he probably could average 30 a game. Honestly, he really could. And he's more interested in his team's development. And he's still averaging 19 a game. I understand that, but he's better than that in the scoring column. But he knows it's best for his team to get others involved. And some of the things that I'd like to see our guys do, be able to get the ball to the paint. He's an excellent passer, and then he's a gamer. And so on his behalf, I've called some college coaches, and I know he signed recently at Bethel, but even last year, talking to some of my contacts, that I think he's an excellent, high school basketball player. He's obviously a good student. He handles the ball well. I think he could play point guard, at the next level. And Bethel grabbed him, and I think it's a nice pickup for Bethel. At that level, NAIA crossroads, he's a good player, and so we got to face him a couple more times here, and we'll do our very best to kind of contain him. But the biggest thing about him is that he makes big plays all over the floor. It's a steal here, it's a steal there, it's an offensive rebound putback, it's a tip ball, it's something that you think, man, that play was a big play, and nobody thinks about it. And like, who was over there? Oh, Kripe. Diving on the floor for a loose ball or finding a way to make the play when it really, really counts. And so I'm really worried about him. He really frightens me, and because he's so difficult to stop. And if you limit him to 12 points, he's probably going to have 9 assists, And so there's going to be a lot of people having big problems with him this year. He's a good player. And I think even in the outside the huddle, the player rankings, he was ranked number 1. In all of north central Indiana is the preseason best player in our area. So, and I would agree with that, wholeheartedly. So, the good news for us is we get to face, one of the best players in our area, and we'll see where we stack up against them. And I know some of our guys are really looking forward to that.
Coach, tonight is the second game of this back-to-back weekend. And last night, obviously taking that loss, you don't get much time to really bounce back off of that. So how do you bounce back tonight and really play West Noble with that attitude that you've had all season?
Well, what I did, I woke up this morning and I went and I worked out. I got on the treadmill and tried to clear my mind Are you talking about me or my team or our team? Yeah. So I'm joking. The thing is, it doesn't matter how I feel or what I do. It's really about how the kids are going to respond. We obviously are playing a basketball game. I don't get to play. My eligibility's up. And by the way, they wouldn't want me out there on the floor anymore. So, so jokingly, I thought maybe you were asking about what I'm doing. I'm going to take a nap and work out a little bit, maybe go over scouting report and stuff like that. But what it's really going to come down to is how our kids respond. And so that's a very good question, and it's going to be interesting to see how we respond. We lost that first one at Fairfield, and I said we didn't put our tail between our legs. We were ready for the next challenge. But that next challenge was like 5 days later. Tonight, it's disappointing. It's frustrating that we didn't win that game last night, and it's really difficult to come in the day after something like that happens when you feel like, gosh, we really should have had that one. I wish I could have played a little bit better or coached a little bit better or whatever. And then to have the energy and enthusiasm it takes to get ready for a team like West Noble coming in. And so, I've had teams do it in the past, and we'll see how this team responds. If we don't respond well and we get waxed tonight, it's going to be a concern because we got other weekends that are back-to-back weekends, and clearly, the ultimate goal is to play on a Friday and Saturday, and during sectional time. And you got to go from, I'm talking about the highest of highs during your season to win a game on Friday night and to give it everything you got, to leave it all on the floor, and then to come back the very next night and play for a sectional championship. That's very difficult to do too. And so ultimately we're going to use this as a learning experience tonight. And if we come out and we play with a lot of energy, that's going to be a good sign for our team. If we don't, that's something that we're going to have to talk about.
All right, so when you look at West Noble, they bring a lot of length. You got Barth in the middle, Kripe and Ferris as some lengthy guards.
Grant, you're going to ruin my nap talking like that, okay? I need to relax and take a nap. So anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, you mentioned those three players, and you put Zavala off the bench. How is that going to pose a problem? How can you overcome it?
I don't know. I got to go watch film. I don't know. I need to. No, I mean, last year we tried not guard Zabala 33, and he's got a little bit of a funky shot. And then we looked at the stats this year from last year, and he's shooting like 45% from three. You can't leave him. Skemmerhorn is a lights out shooter over there on the other side, and then you got to deal with Kripe, and then. I saw the Barth kid play in the JV team last year when our JV played them, and I said that's the kid right there. He'll be up there sooner or later. And sure enough, they had a player leave at the middle of the season, and he got into the varsity level. He's a junior, right?
Yeah.
So as a sophomore, about half the season there, and now he's back there. So they got a complete team. They got 6 guys. They bring an energetic guy off the bench and 33, so. Everywhere you look with the West Noble team, there's danger that surrounds all positions, and so it's kind of scary to scout them. It's kind of scary to think about them. You take Kripe off that team, they're probably not quite as scary, obviously, but he's not going anywhere, so we're gonna have to deal with him tonight. But look, I mean, it might be a similar feel when you look at our team. Is certainly we're the underdog going into tonight's game, and we understand that, but we got some firepower. Last night we didn't shoot the ball very well, but what happens if we do? I think Maddox was 6 for 17 last night from the field, 3 for 11 from three-point range. That's not going to happen very often. And so, if Coach Marsh was sitting right here, I wish he was. That's what we should have done. We should have brought him as a special guest, and I bet he would have done it too. Yeah. Or Coach Gosher, that would have been fun. For the regular season game. Now the postseason game, maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. But anyway, Coach Marsh might say the same thing about us, that we're dangerous, and I probably would agree with him. So if you catch us on a hot night, maybe we could sneak up there and get one tonight. And 3 for 11, from Maddox is not going to be normal. We keep Z Barth where he needs to be, and we got some. Firepower with Miles and some of our other guys. So who knows, Grant? I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a great game. Wouldn't it be cool?
I think it's going to be. I think both teams, like you said, have firepower. and both teams going to come out ready to play.
Oh, you know what? People should come watch.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be a Saturday night primetime game at the Hardwood Teepee.
And people from West Noble are going to come over and watch. Look, we got a lot of cool things going on here at Wawasee. I'm telling you, if you're listening on the radio, look, I don't lie. I'm telling you, come out and watch the game tonight. It could be really, really cool environment. And so if you like Indiana high school basketball, if you're not even sure if you like it, just come out and check out this game. Because it's gonna be kind of back old school, lots of people watching, two good programs, two good teams, and you got good kids on both sides, right? And so win or lose, and whoever comes out on top, it's gonna be a fair game. It's gonna be two teams really competing and getting after each other. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to take a nap this afternoon. I'm starting to get pumped up.
Well, before we move on, Coach, we're going to go into our fourth segment, and we're going to bring in Mason Shoemaker, a junior here at Wawasee on your team. What are your thoughts on Mason?
Well, Mason was kind enough to come in. We originally scheduled a couple other players, but with the amount of minutes that we played last night and the rest we got, we can't come in till noon, a shootout. Mason stood up and said, "Hey, Coach, I'll take the radio tomorrow." And I was like, "Yep, that's perfect." And that's exemplifies who he is. You know, he's willing to step up and do things that sometimes nobody else wants to do. And he played some quality minutes last night against Manchester, but in practice, he's giving it his all. You look at him on the bench, and he is all Wawasee, and he's all Wawasee basketball. And you need a guy like that. You need the energy guy on the bench and the guy in practice that's always picking guys up. And so, again, I said this about Peyton Felger, but I'll say it about Mason Shoemaker is nobody in their right mind would ever realize the value that he brings to the team other than the guys in the locker room. And so I'm very proud of Mason. He doesn't get on the floor a whole lot, but he knows his value to the team, and he's trying to fulfill that role to the best of his ability. If you ask him, you know, if he wants to be on the floor, do you want to be a starter? Do you want to shoot threes? Well, he's going to say yes. Any kid would, right? And I hope they would. But he also understands what we need. And so I'm excited that you guys get a chance to talk to him. I'm excited that people get a chance to listen to him on the radio. He's a great student, great kid, very well spoken, and he's a big part of what we're doing with Wawasee basketball.
All right. Well, like you said, coming up, we will interview Mason Shoemaker for a segment, so definitely want to stick around for that one. But more Coach's Corner basketball show coming up on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. Welcome back to our fourth and final segment of the Coach's Corner basketball show on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. I'm Grant Flora here with Zach Bowen, and we've brought in Mason Shoemaker for an interview. This is going to be a good one, folks. So, Mason, to start us off, why don't you introduce yourself, maybe tell us a little bit about your interests, other sports you might play, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. I am Mason Shoemaker. I'm a junior at Wawasee. I obviously participate in the basketball team. I'm also on the football team, and I ran track the last 2 years. I also do a lot of surfing in my free time. That's just really like what I like to do in the summer. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, my first question for you, Mason, is what does the Wawasee basketball program mean to you?
It means a lot, you know. I mean, I grew up playing for Wawasee, play up through LYC, Junior Warriors, middle school, and you kind of grow up as a kid watching the team, and it's like, man, I really want to be there, and so it's really a dream come true to be on the team. It's a lot of fun. It's a family, honestly, and we work hard together, and it means a lot because there's just a lot of things that go into it, and win or loss, it's just a lot of fun to be there.
Yeah, so Mason, you're a junior now, and you've kind of been able to come up through the program to where now you're getting some varsity minutes. How has that kind of happened? Where were you at your freshman year, then sophomore, and now as a junior?
It's actually a funny story, actually. So I played my freshman year basketball on the freshman team, and then my sophomore year, I mean, I was never really that skilled, and Coach was thinking about putting me back on the C team for another year, and I came out there and I was like, you know, the one thing I've always known is Coach loves a good workhorse, so I kind of just went out there like a crazy animal, you know, a football player, and just hit people, hit around, and Coach liked it, so he kept me up there, kept me playing JV, and then even put me on the varsity a little bit as a sophomore, and I had a lot of fun doing that. Obviously, the coaches kind of gave me a role, and I just went with it, and it was so much fun. I mean, who doesn't love to go around and hit people, fly around, have fun, and be aggressive?
So Coach was kind of talking about your role there. So what do you see as your role overall?
Yeah, definitely. So you always need someone that is keeping the team up because there's a lot of ups and downs in the season. And if you can have, I feel like I can be consistent and I can be like just cheering my teammates on, keeping them up and keeping the season on a high. And I also love to go in there, play defense and, kind of rile things up, get everybody going, and kind of be a steady player for our team.
Yeah, so coming into this season, you guys look to be a pretty solid team so far. And then, of course, it's your junior season. So what are some goals that you've kind of set for yourself as an individual, but also for the team?
I'm just taking it game by game. I go and look at the last couple games and see how I played, and I'm like, all right, I can do this, and this better, rebounding, boxing out, everything. And if I just keep on improving every game, I feel like that's what it takes to get to where we need to be to win a sectional championship.
So we kind of asked Coach this question on how to bounce back from a loss, and he was saying he don't really do anything. So as a player, how do you bounce back from a loss like last night, how close it was? How do you do that?
I mean, it's pretty easy. No one likes to lose, so when you lose a close game like that, you're hungry to get back on the floor and show that you can do a lot better than that. And so I think everybody tonight's like, all right, we're at home, and let's go get a W over a good team.
Well, yeah, you guys played a great game last night against Manchester, and although you fell short, you came in to provide some key minutes. So what was your job last night as you came into the floor?
So Coach put me in at the end of the first quarter, hoping to get a good defensive stop, and we actually did that, and it was looking pretty good. I knew I come in, and you just got to stay controlled and kind of, I don't know how to say this, but just play the game. And so I came in, and we got a stop, got a few rebounds, and went down the floor and scored some points, and it was really a shifting point because we were down 11-2 in the first quarter. And then second quarter, we come back, and we just get on fire. I mean, everybody's knocking out shots, jumpers, threes. And when we're hot and we're on that roll, there's nothing that can really stop us, no team. So it feels pretty good.
Yeah, and I think what you were alluding to there is kind of composure and coming in to step into your role and play your role to the best of your ability. And I think you did that last night, really helped the Warriors get after it with the chance to knock off Manchester.
Exactly, yeah. Because I knew we were a little bit flustered on the road, and, you just got to go in there, keep your composure, keep it rolling, and eventually things will fall into line for us.
Mason, I'd like to point out something. Last night I was kind of watching. I've been watching all season. When you're sitting on the bench there and a player makes a big play, you're up right away, going insane. And I love seeing that because sitting on the bench there, you can sit there and not do anything, but you get up after every play and you just go insane. So what can you say about that, and how does that bring up the team?
Yeah, of course. So if you're in practice and you're even in the offseason, you see how hard these guys work to be on the floor, and the blood, sweat, and tears that they put in to be out there. And it's like, when they're making those plays, you're really proud of them as a teammate. Like, they were out there, and you're just so happy that they were able to do that. And also, if you're putting in that work too, you love to see your team with good points on the scoreboard winning the game. And, that's all you really like to see, and you're just proud for your teammates. And it also helps because when you got the hype on your side of the bench, it gets you on a roll, and everybody's up and cheering. It's kind of fun, It's like you're just having fun with each other.
Yeah, so, you're a guy that comes off the bench, provides some key minutes when the team needs it. And that can be kind of difficult. You never know when coach is going to call your number, and you never know when you're going to have to go in and make some plays. So how do you keep yourself ready on the bench to come in at any time?
Yeah, like Zach said, I like to jump up and down, so I'm pretty warm by then. But I'm always focusing in, seeing which players I'll probably guard, and just being ready to go. Okay, if this happens, I'm going to do this. Like, I just read the game as it goes on, and I'm just always ready. Coach says it when he looks at me. He knows I give him the look like I'm always ready. So he knows I can go in there. I won't be too rocky. I won't be scared with the ball or anything. I'll just go in there, do my job because, I love to be out there on that court, so I'm not really going to screw it up or get scared when I'm out there.
Mason, this is kind of stepping away from the game here, but what life lessons have you learned through this program?
Yeah, of course. So one of my favorite mottos from a team is all in. And it's just taught me a lot. You know, you go in there, put hard work in, and I've learned that if you work hard, you never really can go wrong with that. Like, no one gets punished for working hard. Like, you're always going to get a good outcome, or you're going to learn something. And also a lot of teamwork, a lot of leadership. I mean, you can take a lot of these lessons from the team and turn it into real life. Just talking to your teammates, working with a boss, which would be my coach, and just learning how to just take things away, especially teamwork, and listening to the coach and then putting it out there in real life.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Sports, especially basketball, can teach you a lot about life. And you just pointed out some of the things that you've learned. What are some of those players that have maybe already come through this program that have kind of showed you some of those life lessons and some of those skills?
Yeah, so growing up, I always loved to watch Wawasee basketball, and Cameron Salazar was always a great leader for this team. I mean, I would always watch him, and he'd always be composed. He'd say the right things. He wouldn't talk too much, and he'd just be there and be smart. Like, he knows what to say, he knows what to do, and that really makes him a great leader. Also, Ethan Hardy. I mean, the quietest guys normally, when you're quiet, when you say something, people are going to listen. And so they taught me how to stay composed and just be strong and be a warrior, honestly.
All right, so Coach, we have his goals. So what's your goals as a player or as a whole team? You know, you're in that team, you're in the player. So what's the goal from the player's standpoint this year?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal is go out there and win a sectional championship. So you got to do what it takes to get there. So I think as a team, we've got amazing scores everywhere. I mean, you guys saw that against Fairfield. Like, we can come out firing and come out doing it. And so if we can take all 5, 6 of those guys and really get some deep chemistry, there's going to be nothing that's stopping us. I mean, we're going to be on a roll every single game, and it's going to be dangerous to stop. And individually, like I said, it's just working every single game to get a little bit better, and that's what it's going to take to really be the best player and the best team that we can be.
Yeah, so one of my questions was going to be, what are some things you've liked from the first few games of the season? You kind of mentioned some of those things. So maybe where, from a player's standpoint, do you like things that have gone on in these first few games, you know, things that we on the outside wouldn't see?
Yeah, so I love how we're putting up shots. I mean, it's a way better game when you're making shots instead of missing them, and so it's really easy to cheer on your teammates, and I love we're able to score, and I don't think anybody out there can be stopped. And we also have a lot of hustle and a lot of good defense, which is great because, I mean, when you are out there and you're just always giving your best, it's a lot easier to win ball games. And I feel confident about this season with our players.
So I have a question about future matchups here a little bit. What matchup are you looking forward to this year?
Yeah, one that I have actually on my home screen is Warsaw. I mean, that's my favorite team to go against every year. That's our school rival. Growing up, you're like, I don't have one pair of orange clothing in my closet because I know that's just the worst color to wear. It's the worst school. And they're just 30 minutes down from you. You're like, they're a big school, and you're like, you love going against them because it's a great atmosphere. You got everybody showing up to that game, and it's like, you got to ball out for that game, and it's always fun to be there. I mean, it's just everything falls in line. Great competitiveness, great adversity, and it's so much fun to be in that game. I mean, it's so much fun.
All right, so this is one of my questions. I'm intrigued to hear your opinion. On the first Coaches Show of the year, Coach Everingham told us that every once in a while, the coaches challenge the players to a shooting contest. So let's hear it from the player. How does that normally go?
Well, don't tell Coach I said this, but he normally doesn't even touch the rim, so it's it's pretty funny. He gives himself 2 or 3 tries, and it sometimes it gets close, but it's fun to interact with the coaches. You know, loosen up a little bit and do fun little games like that. And he's a great 3-point shooter. He'll go in there and show us how it's done sometimes. But when we step it back a little bit, I mean, I won the last one, not to brag, but that's just how it goes. We got Scotty Beasley, who likes to do his little shot too, and he he's pretty accurate, but we like to make fun of the way he shoots too. So it's always fun, and we normally end up beating him. So.
Man, that's crazy because he was telling us that the coaches just beat the players
Yeah,
all
no.
the time.
No.
I mean,
No.
okay, so my question here is, after high school, right now you're a junior. So what are your future plans after high school? Like, do you want to pursue basketball or what do you want to do?
Right, yeah. So I obviously want to take what I learned from the team and go out there and do something sentimental in the world. And currently, I've thought maybe taking a year to chillax and maybe go all around and surfing, kind of like live a fun life. I've got a lot of great things lined up for me. I could also go off to college, maybe become an architect because, I love to build. I love kind of putting things together, maybe engineering too, anything like that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just a great opportunity to get an inside look at the players that make Wawasee basketball what it is. So, Mason, we thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
You did a great job. So that'll conclude our Coach's Corner basketball show here on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. It's been Grant Flora and Zach Bowen with Mason Shoemaker here in our fourth segment. Coming up for the Warriors tonight, they're going to host West Noble, and that's going to be a terrific game. Come out and support them if you can. It's just going to be an awesome atmosphere. You don't want to miss it. So like I said, that'll conclude it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you for tonight's game.
Yeah, thanks for having me.